Good evening and welcome back to the regular meeting of council for March 4th, 2020. And we are resuming at 7:13 in the council chambers. At this time, I'd like to confirm the agenda. Are there any emergent items from council or administration? Councillor Peterson?
Your Worship, if we could add to 11.1, under 11.1, bylaw 14.1, I believe it is? Yes. Code of Conduct bylaw, 19-08.
Thank you. Any other emergent items or any other items from councillors? Anything from administration?
Do you want to shut yours off, Denise?
Councillor Montgomery.
Yeah. Thank you. I just have a question, I guess, for administration. So about this, that grant that we got, do I need to direct you, we need to start planning for that, like that? Well, I just mean like that, like the whole Center Street Park, like are we actually gonna start planning that? Should I put that on now, or should we just talk about that after? Sure, okay, then I have nothing.
Thank you, former Deputy Mayor Montgomery. Deborah, do you have anything from administration?
No, Your Worship.
Thank you. Seeing no other items? You do? All right, okay, sorry. So administration, you're adding that,
Your Worship, I'd just like to add a resolution regarding Solarcraft, please. And also, I'd like one emerging item. I'd like to.
where are you wanting to add that Solarcraft
sorry.
one?
Yes, 9.3, please.
Okay, thank you.
And I'd like to ask for one more item for council consideration would be to, would council give consideration to approaching CMRB board this month about asking for a communications engagement open house from Calthorpe. The reason there's some time sensitivity to this item, and because the board meeting is this month, the Calthorpe meetings are already been scheduled for April in Airdrie, Cochrane, Okotoks, and there isn't any on the east side of the metropolitan area, and so we'd recommend that council give consideration to asking the board to, the CMRB board to asking Calthorpe to come out and do an open house, a similar open house session on the east side. Preferably in Strathmore. We would note if we were. It could, but it's entirely up to you. It would just have to get on the board agenda as an item.
I was under the understanding that I'd been contacted about a meeting with Calthorpe, but I'm not seeing a date here. I have one as CMRB visioning discussion with Mauro Manghetti. That's not it?
No.
Okay, thank you. So then you'll be looking into that then, James?
Yes, 9.4.
Okay, thank you. All right, if there are no other items, I'm looking for a motion to confirm the agenda as amended.
So move.
Councillor Sobel has that motion. You've all heard the motion. All in favor? And the motion is carried. And that brings us to presentations, recognitions. I don't believe we have anything. And delegations is item 5. 5.1. Solarcraft is coming in at 9.3. Okay. So that brings us to delegations. We have the Strathmore District Curling Club. If you wouldn't mind coming forth and introducing yourselves. And just just so we tell all our delegations who come that you have a 10-minute presentation time, and then there's still going to be time for questions and comments from councilors, so.
Okay,
Perfect, thank you, and welcome.
welcome. Good evening, Your Worship and members of council. My name is Ken Shackleton. I'm the president of the Strathmore and District Curling Club. Standing beside me is Lindsay McCutcheon. Lindsay is a director on our board, and there are several members of our board in the gallery this evening. We've been working with Alberta Curling on a submission to host either the ladies or men's provincials. Lindsay has been our person on point for this initiative. Initial discussions were to host an event in February of 2021, but after some investigation, the board felt that it would be too rushed, and we did not feel that we would be ready in time. So now we're planning to make a submission to Alberta Curling later this year, January of 21 at the latest, to host an event in February of 22. Hosting a competition of this magnitude would require our renting the Family Center Arena for perhaps 10 days. The curling club does not have the required seating for such an event, and Alberta Curling also requires a letter of support from the town as part of our submission. And it is our hope that as we work through the proposal over the upcoming year that we can earn your support. So, so in summary, there's basically two reasons for the presentation tonight: to advise the town of our intentions, and to see if it would be possible to rent the Family Center Arena in February of 22. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your presentation, Ken, and questions from council. Councillor Peterson.
Thank you for this. I think it's a great initiative, and Your Worship, I would take under advisement that probably at this time you're asking us to receive the report for information,
Yes.
to direct our administration under the direction of Tracy Simpson, Director Tracy Simpson, to work with you towards this outcome, and I'm prepared to make the motion and open for discussion, Your Worship.
Okay, there may be some questions coming first before a motion.
I'm good with
Councillor
that.
Bauer, do you have a question?
I was wondering, have you considered that other communities have already come forward and said that they would be pursuing the 2020 date? I understand just from a brief search on the internet that Grand Prairie is also putting in a bid. Is there a
Well-
cost for us to go forward and,
No.
no?
And it's for 2022?
Yeah, in 2022, Grand Prairie is the one that has put forward a bid
Oh.
already.
The bid process is open, so any community curling club or whatever it be can actually submit a bid at any point. So whether, we don't know what our competition would be for that bidding process until, we wouldn't actually necessarily know at all. You submit your bid and then you wait for Alberta Curling to get back to you.
But there's no cost involved going forward
No
to
cost.
the town or to
No cost.
your association. Okay, thank you.
Deputy Mayor Corbeil.
Thank you, Your Worship. So would you guys use both sides of the family center?
For the men's event, the minimum required seating is 1,000, and then essentially usually have like complimentary entertainment and events to go alongside the curling. So then that would essentially be a social area that we could use for a patch-like setting, and to bring in some different entertainers from the community, and to use that alongside the actual competition.
You mean like use the blue side for that purpose or
Yeah,
whatever?
the blue side would be used for that purpose,
Yeah.
and the gold would be for the actual race
Event.
set.
And you need a 1,000?
A minimum of 1,000 for the men's, yeah.
And we don't accommodate that yet. How do you propose, like, 'cause I think it's what, 550, is it? What it is on the gold side?
Can I answer that, Your Worship?
Sure.
We've already measured the arena out, okay, with it being an Olympic-sized arena. It's 100 feet wide. We only need 80 feet of that to put 4 sheets of ice and have the 3 walkways for the 2 sides. We would then put scaffold seating on the east side to accommodate the additional seating, as well as on one of the ends. Then there would be box seats put up there for organizations or for sponsorship people within the community or out of the community, even like Scotty's, if it's a men's Boston Pizza, at that time, it would.
Oh,
it
so
would
could
be-
could we have you come up to the microphone just so the people at home can hear you? Thanks.
Sorry about that. Again, the arena is 100 feet wide. We need 80 feet for ice surface, that's walkways and 4 sheets of curling ice. Then at that time, we can put scaffolding bleachers on the east side of the arena to bring us up to a maximum amount of seating. So again, the ends, we can put box seats in for corporate sponsors, et cetera. Again, we'd use scaffolding, so tube scaffolding would be used, so.
A follow-up question on that.
bet.
Would our capacity be okay for that?
Your worship, I can answer that. So for a special event like this, we would engage the fire marshal and based on a plan with proper egress routes, we could issue a special permit for a larger capacity.
Thank you. Thank you. And then, as bad as it is right in the middle of January or February? February?
If,
Middle?
Yeah,
Like, that's, as bad as it is, that's just when playoffs start for hockey. So I don't know how many hours it would affect local youth hockey teams. That's a big concern of mine.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Councillor Sobel.
Thank you. So if I understand this correctly, what your application will be going in January 21, and you'll need a letter, amongst other things, I'm sure, but one of the primary things would be a letter of support from the town. And
Yes.
when would you need that? When would you like to have that?
Well, it has to go in with our submission.
So by January.
So we have almost a year.
Okay. So I guess my question is, in regards to the motion, I wonder if we can include, Councillor Peterson, just as a suggestion, a report to come back to council in this regard from Tracy within a couple of months, outline the pros and cons as it pertains to our municipality.
I put in a motion October, but I'd be prepared to.
I'm just, I'm concerned that if this is, if it's a possibility and everything's a go, then it really doesn't matter. But if things are not looking, like, I just don't want to waste these people's time if it's not going to go. And I really don't know. So, yeah, sooner the better, I guess. I don't know if Tracy can get that done by July. Yeah.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Councillor Sobel. Just a question for me, Ken. Have there been any preliminary discussions or contacts with minor hockey as of yet, or ring yet?
not at this point.
Yeah, not
Part
really.
of this is also to clarify what processes we should be following.
Okay.
We suggested that this be our first step.
Yeah, I would hate to blindside minor hockey and have us come up with a letter of support first, and then they haven't been consulted. So we need to be careful of all the groups that
No,
are
we don't
users.
want to blindside anyone.
Yeah, thank you.
That's why we're here early in the process.
Yeah, thank you. Councillor Peterson.
Thank you, Your Worship. I would move to accept the presentation for information and to direct administration to work with the Strathmore Curling Club to ascertain the process and viability of pursuing a major curling tournament in Strathmore and to report back to council by July of 2020. And if I may speak to the motion briefly.
Did you just
Your
call it a curling tournament?
Worship. I didn't know, I had curling thing.
Because I
Yeah,
thought
there we
that's
go.
something I might do.
I just know that Ms. Hammerlack will fix that.
Yeah. Vaughn's.
Thank you. I did. I want to just express my gratitude to the Strathmore Curling Club for what you do in this community and the care that you've taken of the facility and the judicious manner in which you operate. It's a template, and we're very, very grateful that you do that. And Miss Lindsay, your dad would be very proud of you. Yes. So thank you for all your work.
Thank you very
Your
much.
Worship.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Bauer? Oh, I thought you had a comment, sorry. So we have a motion on the floor. All in favor? And the motion is carried. I don't believe we have any items on the consent agenda, which brings us to item 7, confirmation of minutes. 7.1, adoption of the January 31st, 2020 special council meeting minutes. And yes, thank you for coming, and save yourselves, run while you still can. Deputy Mayor Corbeil.
I move the council adopt the January 31st, 2020 special council meeting minutes as presented.
Thank you. You've all heard the motion. All in favor? Councillor Bauer.
I move that council adopt the February 19th, 2020, oh, I can't even go ahead until you say it. I'm sorry, I'm going ahead. Can I do the next one?
Sure you can.
I'm sorry, Your Worship. So for the next item, the adoption of the February 19th, 2020 regular council meeting minutes, I would just like to make the following amendment. I was not in attendance at this meeting, and I'm on as that I'm there. I was actually absent. I was at the Emergency Management Conference in Edmonton, so I would just like to move the that council adopt the February 19th, 2020 regular council meeting minutes with that following amendment.
Does it show that you have? I think it shows your.
No.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Okay, thank you. You've heard the motion.
Your worship.
Councillor Sobel.
Ditto.
Okay. You weren't here either then. Okay, thank you. So Deborah, are you catching this, all of this? But it's just a formatting thing.
No, it's just the way it's
Because the regrets.
supposed to be in Latin.
It just looks like it just goes across there.
No, it's all.
Talk about pedantic, you guys.
Okay, I've got to look up that word again. So we do have a motion with an amendment. All in favor? And the motion is carried. I don't believe we have any tabled items, and we're on item 9, items or reports from administration. 9.1, Oxbow annexation, which is found on page 14 of the package. And welcome, Renee.
Thank you. Let's get this up here. That's right. Loading. Just lots of pictures, yeah. Oh, because I have it open on my computer. Oh, yes. It's okay.
Good evening, Your Worship. Administration is here this evening to request a decision on the proposed Oxbow annexation. Administration understands that the Oxbow annexation had been formally underway with a generous amount of work completed by the applicant. The proposed annexation was received under previous administration, which includes 327.29 acres directly to the northwest adjacent to the town of Strathmore boundary. The subject parcel is bounded to the north and includes Township Road 244 and to the west and including Range Road 254. Current land surplus within the town of Strathmore is currently 4,327 acres, or 62% of Strathmore's land mass as undeveloped lands. Annexation of Oxbow would effectually increase the land surplus to 4,652 acres, which equates to 67% of our land mass. The green shown in the map here is all of the undeveloped land currently owned by the town of Strathmore that is undeveloped. And then we have the orange is the Oxbow proposal. Pardon me. Our current developing communities include Edgefield, Lakewood, Ranch, and Wildflower, and they're shown here on the map in red. Of these, a total of 607.5 acres is yet undeveloped, and 3 out of the 4 developing communities, as you can see on this slide, have approximately 90% or higher of an undeveloped rate. And then we also have the total future communities. These are the communities of Grandview Gardens, Heritage Heights, North Hill Heights, the Prairies, and West Creek, which all include previously approved area structure plans, and then I've included the dates that these area structure plans were previously approved as well. These add an additional 966.67 acres of undeveloped land for a total of 1,574.17 acres of land available currently for development within the town boundaries. And none of these communities have begun development yet. Administration is seeking smart growth and contiguous growth in a sustainable and responsible manner. The annexation and growth timelines show project growth primarily centered around the town core in the 0 to 15-year time span here. Developing communities within the town of Strathmore are a high priority for administration to facilitate smart growth, utilize existing infrastructure and services, and to implement economic initiatives. The current Oxbow proposal indicates the town of Strathmore would own and maintain the full road allowances along both Township Road 244 and Range Road 254 as shown on this map. According to analysis completed by the Engineering and Operation Departments at the town of Strathmore, Township Road 244, which is paved, included requires upgrading along this section of road. The chip sealed overlay was redone in 2011 or 2012, according to Wheatland County, at a cost of $100,000, and it will need to be redone again. However, costs have likely increased over this 9-year period. Associated annual maintenance costs for Township Road 244, based on quotes from the County of Wheatland and from the Strathmore Operations Department for patching, pothole filling, crack sealing, and snow clearing have been quoted at $15,000 per year. Range Road 255 would be an additional cost for this maintenance. And Range Road 255 is also gravel. The annexation proposal includes upfront carrying costs and during a slow real estate time equates to a significant risk to the town as pockets of unfinished subdivisions and unfinished infrastructure can become a town liability. Administration recommends maintaining the current municipal boundaries. The town presently has a generous supply of undeveloped land. The recommendation of administration is to follow smart growth and sustainable development with consideration of impacts and costs to existing residents, to provide support for existing developments and cut unknown risks and costs to the town. Administration recommends re-examination of the Oxbow annexation proposal based on market growth and until such a time in which the land surplus within the town is reduced to a level to warrant further annexation. Thank you.
Thank you, Renee. Questions from council? Councillor Montgomery.
Not really a question. I just wanted to thank Renee for all of her work on this. It's a lot to go through, so thank you very much for all of that.
Through your worship, thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor.
And
Councillor Peterson.
Thank you, Worship. I know that this has been a lengthy file, and I know that it's one that you inherited, so I echo the appreciation. I also want to extend acknowledgement to Christy Boonder, who went through to extraordinary lengths to prepare possibly one of the best reports I've ever seen in terms of annexation. And I know it must be incredibly disappointing that this process has taken a very long time. And I'm certainly not addressing that to you because you were not here. But it bears saying that the work that she did on this file was extraordinary and that it was unfortunate that economic times shifted significantly in our community and the vision that this council has also shifted comparatively. So I guess at some level I am offering her my heartfelt thanks for the amount of work that she put in and a hope that we would move efficiently and faster in the future. And I know that the people sitting in this room were not party to this. And so I want to make sure you understand that I'm not in any way criticizing the people sitting here. Possibly the council, but not you. Thank you for your work.
Thank you, Councillor Peterson.
I'm ready with the motion, Your Worship.
Thank you, Councillor Sobel.
I would move that council give consideration to maintaining the current municipal boundaries.
Thank you. We have a motion on the floor, and you've all heard the motion. All in favor? And the motion is carried. Thank you for all your work, Renee, and
Thank
your
you.
staff. Which brings us to item 9.2, 2019 Senior Tax Rebate Program Update. And Linda, I believe you're presenting. Welcome this evening.
Good evening, Your Worship and Council. Council directed administration to research, develop, and implement the Senior Tax Rebate Program. The report in your package are the results from the first year. So some of the highlights are 132 residents applied for the senior tax rebate and 120 were approved. The total amount of money distributed was $19,400. 88 out of the 120 approved had never been in our office before, and out of the new 88 people we had never seen before, we were able to assist 60 qualify for. And so we're continuing to engage with those residents still to assist them with other programs and services they weren't aware of. So at this time, administration recommends that council, my sentence didn't make any sense, sorry. So the recommendation is that council direct administration to adjust the income threshold each July 1st in accordance with the Government of Alberta service benefit financial thresholds, and that the parameters of the program stay the same for 2020. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much for your presentation. Any questions from councillors or comments? Councillor Peterson? Councillor Bauer.
Thank you very much, Your Worship. Linda, I just want to really commend your office for taking this on, and I think that this is going to become even more important coming forward this year. And I think that your numbers are going to get higher. I think that with the economic times that we're facing, that there are more and more people that are not receiving the credits that they used to, and they're going to find themselves coming to you for assistance. So I just would like to absolutely support this, that I think that this is a program that we need to continue. And I just want to ask, do you feel that your FCSS office has the resources that it needs at this point to continue this service?
Thank you, Your Worship. So first of all, I agree with your comments, and as a pilot project, normally the numbers are usually way high or a little lower than what you would expect. So, with respect to the comments you said, we're already starting to get an increase in people, especially seniors, with all the changes that are happening to benefits and services. We went through a process with the program, and the process went quite smoothly, and we were able to evaluate it. So I think in response to your question, we're in a position to be able to continue to support this program moving forward with some of those adjustments that we've made.
Then with that in mind, would you consider, if council was amenable, to including people who are on AISH with this program? Just because there have been so many cuts by this government to people with AISH, I'm thinking that they will also benefit from a program where they can have help with their income tax returns as well.
So Your Worship, I think that that's something that we can take back and review and see what some of the parameters around there would look like, and then bring a report back to council to see how that would impact any of the differences, because there's a few things that we would have to change, for example, with the financial threshold and what those kind of things look like. So we would be able to go back and develop a report and bring it back to council and then talk about next steps then.
Okay, that would be great. And I'm also hearing from Councillor Peterson that perhaps there's already a system in place for that, so it may not be necessary, but thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bauer. Councillor Peterson.
Your Worship, if you are prepared to accept a motion? I would move that council accept this report as information and that council direct administration to adjust the income threshold each July 1st in accordance with the Government of Alberta Seniors Benefits Financial Thresholds. And if I might speak to the motion, Your Worship. I'm greatly appreciative of what you've been able to accomplish in this and the jurisdiction that you've adopted and how you've collected that data and presented it. And Your Worship, I just want to say that in the last 2 weeks, I have heard from the Alberta Rural Development Network, from the Strathmore Overnight Shelter, from the Wheatland Housing Management Body, from Social Housing, and from the Seniors Advisory Committee about raving reviews of FCSS and the direction that they've taken in this community in terms of benefits to people who are marginalized, most specifically. And I just want to say that I think communities and society in general are judged by how they treat their most marginalized people. And your office has made this community look very good in that regard. And I want to express my deep appreciation, and I want this community to know that your work is recognized widely, so provincially, locally, regionally. Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you for that, Councillor Peterson. We do have a motion on the floor. All in favor? And the motion is carried. And thank you again, Linda.
Thanks.
And that brings us to item 9.3, Solarcraft. Mr. Roycroft, will you be joining us at the microphone briefly? Or as long as you want, I suppose.
Your Worship, be careful offering me that opportunity. I'll take it as a challenge. Thank you, Your Worship. So this item pertains to the lease signed on the pivot fields, the so-called pivot fields, for 320 acres of lands on there. The leaseholders have submitted a request for an amendment to the lease, changing the times of the lease and a slight change to the area. This is in recognition to the negotiations being undertaken as part of their approvals under the Alberta Utilities Commission for the installation of a solar power plant. The applicants had initially hoped to submit a Category 3 application to the AUC, which is an uncontested application. However, negotiations with some of the interveners have not moved forward as hoped. So rather than proceed in what Solarcraft feels are fruitless negotiations, they have instead resubmitted their application as a Category 5 application, which is a contested application. The AUC commits to a maximum of a 295-day turnaround time on this, which does delay the project by another year. However, the applicants are confident that they will receive that approval and move forward. So with that in mind, staff are recommending that council authorize the mayor and CAO to sign the amendment and to amend the lease with the intent then on seeing the project move through the government approvals process and under construction for 2021. Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you very much, Ryan. Councillor Montgomery.
I can see why you gave me this, actually. All right. So I will move that council authorize the mayor and CAO to sign an amendment to the lease for lands described as Southwest Corridor 122425 west of 4, plus Southeast 122425 west of 4, and Lot 1 Plan 9110086.
Thank you very much for the motion. Is there any discussion on that motion? Seeing none, all in favor? And the motion is carried. Thank you, Ryan.
Thank you, Worship and Council.
And that brings us to 9.4, CMRB Calthorpe. Mr. Thackeray.
Thank you, Your Worship. It's just recommended for council consideration to request the CMRB board to hold a public open house by Calthorpe, preferably in the month of April. Administration believes there's value in undertaking this lobbying, and we just put this recommendation forward for your consideration. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Thackeray. Councillor Montgomery.
Thank you, Worship. I will move the council direct Mayor Fuel to advocate on behalf of the town of Strathmore and surrounding region for HDR Calthorpe to host an open house to discuss the Calgary Regional Growth Plan in Strathmore.
Thank you very much. You've all heard the motion. All in favor? And that motion is carried. That brings us to item 10, committee reports, 10.1 committee meeting minutes. I believe we have some on paper from Councillor Peterson, or that's from committees in which you sit.
Is that now? No, not yet.
Committee meeting minutes. Councillor Sobel.
Yeah, Your Worship, I'd move that council accept the committee minutes as information.
Thank you very much. You've all heard the motion. All in favor? Motion is carried. 10.2, reports from councillors from committees on which they sit, March 2020. Councillor Bauer.
Your Worship, I would just like to give a brief update, and not a formal report, but the Strathmore Overnight Shelter held its second annual fundraiser for Walk In From the Cold on Sunday this past, and we had Councillor Sobel, Councillor Peterson, and Your Worship was there to walk. There were actually 22 walkers in attendance, and so far I have received notice that $4,600 has been collected so far. Last year was $3,000, so we're well into surpassing what the goal was. And I'd also like to say that Elizabeth Karp, the director of the Strathmore Overnight Shelter, has said that she is so grateful to the community for all of their support. She's also very grateful to Siksika for the partnership that they have entered into with the overnight shelter. The representation from Siksika was amazing. We also had Councillor Buck Breaker there, Councillor oh goodness, Sam Crowfoot was there, and as well as we had an elder. We also had the Calgary Stampede First Nations princess, Fallon Many Wounds, and she was absolutely fabulous. So I would just like to report to all of you that it was a huge success, and thank you very much for taking time out of your afternoon to be there, and we're looking forward to next year. And thank you to Councillor Peterson for cooking.
Yes, that was
Yeah,
amazing.
she gave, yes, nobody died.
Thank you very much for that, Councillor Bauer. Councillor Peterson.
Thank you, Your Worship. I sent to council very late the Marigold report to council for February. We declared Freedom to Read Week at our last council meeting. The items of note in this report is that the new headquarters is on track, and that an updated project schedule with a completion date was presented on December 13th, and the completion date is scheduled for May of 2021. There are some really neat undertakings by Marigold in terms of the way that they are delivering services to their library patrons, and very, very much worthwhile to take a look at their new website and their new libraryware website as well, which you can get at the same place. In addition, Marigold Library System has published their levies, so our municipality levies have not changed. There was a recognition among the membership, the 43 municipalities, that this is certainly not the time to consider any kind of increases to levies. So they trimmed their budget, and the Municipal Library Board levy rate is $6.24 per capita. Population rate has not changed from last year. They're still working, I believe, on 2016, but we're pretty close. And the Strathmore Municipal Library Board levy is still at $4.50, so about $145,000 altogether. That is my report, Your Worship. I just have something briefly too from seniors. Ms. Hemmerluck is wonderful at taking the minutes, and the minutes from the last meeting is there, but they also met this past Monday. And one of the things that was very, very interesting in that meeting was a desire on the part of the Seniors Advisory Committee meeting to look at funding, at sponsoring grant funding to do a joint initiative in the community to address seniors and isolation. And I think it ties in very nicely with the new rural mental health initiative. So those are things that they're going to be looking at, and I think that they will probably be coming to this committee for, not for money, but for report and letters of support. Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you very much. Councillor Sobel?
Thank you, Your Worship. Just a quick report on the Strathmore and Wheatland County Chamber of Commerce. We did meet earlier this afternoon, and there were a number of issues discussed that will be forthcoming in social media, et cetera. But the one of importance that I'd like to focus on right now is that our AGM, our annual general meeting, will be held on March 30th, Monday, March 30th, at 6:30 p.m., and it's going to be held at the Strathmore Fire Hall. Public are invited, anyone's invited, although only chamber members will have the ability to vote on motions. And I hope to have a good turnout. We have an amazing board, very operational board. Everyone's hardworking, and we're going to have a few openings for additional directors as well. So looking forward to that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other reports? Councillor Sobel?
I move receipt of the reports for information, please.
Thank you very much. We have a motion to receive those reports as information. All in favor? And that motion is carried. Which brings us to item 11, items directly related to council. 11.1, bylaw 14-1, code of conduct bylaw 19-08. Councillor Peterson.
Thank you, Your Worship. After consideration, council I will move that pursuant to section 14.1, section F of the Code of Conduct bylaw, that is the Town of Strathmore's Code of Conduct bylaw 19-08, the council proceed with an investigation of the formal complaint issued February 14th, 2020, relating to Councillor Cox.
Thank you very much. We have a motion on the floor. Any discussion? Any questions? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? So we have 6 in favor and 1 opposed. Councillor Sobel?
Your Worship, I have a second motion. I would move that council appoint Doug Legore as the lead investigator in this matter, responsible for seeking and receiving advice and guidance, including legal advice, as determined necessary by council for the purpose of conducting the investigation and providing recommendations to council, and for directing administration as required for the purpose of obtaining any information required to assist council in its investigation.
Thank you very much. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? We have 6 in favor and 1 opposed. Thank you. And that brings us to item 12, bylaws. I don't believe we have anything new. Urgent business, I believe we've already dealt with things. 14, questions between councillors and council statements. Councillor Bauer.
Thank you, Your Worship. On February 24th, I met with a group in Strathmore. They are called the PALs, and they are a group. Danielle Harris and Michelle Bailey Bishop were the ones that invited me to dessert and discussion. And we talked about connectivity with our pathways and accessibility for our people that are currently in wheelchairs or have some type of limited mobility in our town. We came up with a number of different strategies going forward, and one was I suggested that PALs come and meet with Deborah Hammerlick, or perhaps contact her to set up to be a possible delegation in the future. So I'm just wanting to let everyone know that they have been invited by me, and they are trying to put together a presentation for council so that we can look in the spring with a little bit of a hands-on approach from them on what we can do to make our town even better. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Bauer. Councillor Peterson.
Your Worship, I have a question for administration, and Is this an okay time to bring that up? It is with regards to the 2020 budget, and I know that administration has prepared a great deal of material for council, but I'm wondering if you are planning in the near future, through communications and to council, to work with us to present to our community in a planning format the items from this 2020 budget that will impact our community, and not all of them negative, for sure, but specific to rural policing, school boards, own source versus reserve funding, affordable housing, and then the impact on our taxes, both residential and non-residential. And I don't expect numbers at all, Mr. Thackeray. I just am looking for planning and general expectation.
Mr. Thackeray.
Just through the chair, in response to Councillor Peterson, it sounds like, so if the question is, can we put together a communication process and engagement on the provincial budget? Yes, we absolutely can. AUMA have put together significant information, and as you note rightly, there are a lot of impacts on communities throughout the province, and all different local governments, and there are some positive things, but there's also a lot of other things that I think indirectly impact us. Thank you. And yes, we could put together something. Would it be council's pleasure to hear something in a couple of weeks? How much time would that be reasonable?
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Sound like Elvis. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, that brings us to administrative inquiries. Deborah Hamrick, you are on.
Thank you, Your Worship. I have two administrative inquiries, one from yourself regarding playground equipment. Could administration and operations add the green space on the south side of Hillview Crescent for possible playground equipment? There are many detached residences on the south side, as well as duplexes on the northern side. Right now, kids from this large crescent have to cross the 817 to use playground equipment. And the second inquiry is from Councillor Peterson regarding mental health initiative. Councillor Peterson is inquiring as to whether we as a community have engaged in the Rural Mental Health Initiative, and if so, under what auspice and to what degree.
So I can provide a short response now, and we can come back with something more in depth. But the town of Strathmore has already submitted a request to be a part of the second year of the program, which will be this year. We're working still on establishing some community partners, but we have submitted an application, and it's one of our projects for 2020.
So I just have a question, Your Worship. So in that process, they talk, what is the word that they use for the go-to person? They have a title, starts with an A, like not an adjudicator. And,
I want to say ambassador.
Yeah, no, it's not, but it is like that. It is an ambassador, though. That's
Yeah.
not the word they use, but, so have we
Yeah.
chosen that person in this community?
Not yet. That's what we're working on right now. We were trying to establish it last year, so we would be prepared this year, but due to some staffing resources, we just fell a little bit behind, and so it's back on our radar.
But there's lots of time still.
There is lots of
The
time.
reason that I asked is that I received a call from CMHC, what the Mental Health Association, asking if I wanted to put my name forward. So I just said, well, I was going to wait until I was pretty sure that somebody from here would be on it. So I think that's wonderful. And I just want to say again that the Seniors Advisory is very, very committed to looking at mental health in seniors relevant to isolation. And if there is some synergy that can be created in this in terms of them, they're wanting very much to work with local agencies to sponsor a grant that they would go after, but they are an advisory board, so not to do the work. So, but to get the money for someone to do the work. So, if there's opportunity for that, and you can advise us of that, it'd be great. Thank you.
Your Worship, through to Councillor Peterson, we can definitely bring forward some information to the Seniors Advisory Committee on how they can be a participant or advise on the process once we're a little more established.
Thank you very much, Councillor Peterson, and thank you, Tracy. Just for me to add, do we have any more admin inquiries, Deborah? No, I don't think so. Okay, thank you. Just a quick announcement, the Strathmore Storm Pee Wee girls team have qualified and are going to provincials, but do you know the weekend of that? Melanie, do you want to?
I don't know the weekend, but I just know
Okay.
that they defeated Olds. They had to win by 4 goals, and they did. They won 7-3.
Okay, that's good news. And Deborah, there has been a request from them. I believe they're going to be asking for some pins to possibly take. So we can touch base in the morning maybe on that. And also Strathmore High School wrestlers. This is their first year of having a wrestling team, an organized wrestling team. And they have several are going to provincials as well from Strathmore High School too. He's thinking about it.
Yeah.
All right, thank you very much. So we have no more there. Item 16, Deputy Mayor Corbeil.
I move we go in camera?
James, do we have more in camera to discuss?
I would like to go on camera.
Okay, thank you. So we have a motion to go in camera again. At 8:04, the motion is made by Deputy Mayor Corbeil, and that motion is carried. So we're now in camera